Ready for a long and detailed discussion on how to assemble and disassemble the Penn Battle? Here it is.
Welcome back! If you're new to the channel, we cover kayak modifications, spin, and fly fishing. So poke that subscribe button so you don't miss anything.
First, I recommend you have some vinyl gloves because the grease is kind of nasty. Then have the appropriate small containers to put the small parts into. I like using Real Clean, and I'll put some in one of the containers to soak. Then for grease, I've got the Penn grease and I've got Real Oil, and I'll use both of those as we work this. In terms of tools, you may need a larger screwdriver to break loose the screws, and then smaller, nicer screwdrivers as well. You'll need a small adjustable wrench, some pipe cleaners, and some cotton swabs. A rag is critical. So with that, let's get going. First thing, take off this part right here and then break the handle off and set it aside. Now the first step is to take the drag off and just unscrew it all the way until it pops off, like that. Don't worry about that part. We'll clean up this a little bit later. Now we're at the body of the reel. First step is to remove these 3 screws, and note that they are all long. So I'm going to put these here for now because I want to show you something. Okay, all these screws have a little tiny washer on them, and you need to be careful you don't lose that. And you can see that in my previous assemblies, disassemblies of this particular reel, I've lost them. No real big deal if you lose them, but they do help with keeping the inside of your reel protected and waterproof. Now, here's the reason I laid these 3 out, because I wanted to show you that this screw right here is small, and this piece just pivots off from there, and then you have one more screw right here which is also small, and these 2 screws are not interchangeable. This has a different head than that one, and obviously this one is shorter than those 3, so you need to remember that when you're putting these together. So what I do is I group these 4 in one side of my container, and this one along with the top in the other side. That way I can keep them separated. Now once you're done with that, the top just pops off, and now we've got the various components on the inside. But before we get to taking these out, we need to deal with this screw so the rod can come out, and then these parts will come apart. So I like to put anything from the interior in a different spot, and note that this slides right out once this screw is gone. Now I can work these larger pieces out, and I'll throw them over here in my bucket to soak. So in terms of the action, I think what's going on is that I may need to re-lube my bearings in there, or these teeth may be corroded and I need to clean them out real well. So to get the bearings out on the inside, we've got this screw right here that holds a lock washer in, and so we'll get that going, get it loose. You got to get it up before you can get this nut out. Then get your adjustable wrench, and loosen it, and this nut should pop out as well. Stick that there, keeping all my parts together. Now this part just lifts off. I can check it out. And now, continuing, I've got to take off this cover to get at the bearings on the inside. So those screws come off. Got another container. I'll drop that in. Now, the bearing assembly pops right out. Okay, now this is really important. This is a one-way bearing, so if you get these in reversed, your reel will not rotate in the right direction. No big deal if you do, just disassemble it and then reassemble. So I'm going to basically take these straight off and put them straight down. That way I'll keep the alignment the same. Straight off, straight down, straight off, straight down. Now here's one of the reasons why I think my reel was grinding a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and clean it off. Got a nice brush here where I can get the old grease out. A cloth.
Then it's easier just to buy replacement
I want to
parts.
work on these.
And I'll put the link to
Now,
this website in the
I know
description.
some people take the bearings out, but to me that's just asking for trouble. If the reel is so full of dirt that these bearings are toast, so what I do is I just try and squish some new grease in there to hopefully squish out any of the bad stuff. Again, being careful to not lose my orientation, particularly on this one. So get more grease in there, hopefully pushing out the bad stuff, and then on this final one as well. Now pop some grease onto here around the teeth. These teeth are what engage with your reel handle to turn everything. And now I'll just put these back together. Pick it straight up, slide it straight on, pick it straight up, slide it straight on, pick it straight up. So, next challenge is to clean up the inside. This is where I use the pipe cleaners, get it all cleaned up in here, get it cleaned up around in here, and basically just get all the old grease out because we're going to. Pipe cleaner is good to kind of clean out some of these screw holes. You never know if dirt's has gotten in there. Now we're ready to go do these parts. Take off this bearing right here, and again I'm just going to clean it up. Here's where I think my problem was. I don't think these teeth were engaging smoothly. And the other pieces are really just clean off. Got some old grease to get out of this channel here. And then dry them off. This piece right here will end up in here. Okay, those are the inside pieces. And clean off this side as well. Get all the grease off. Last part is the shaft. Get the old lube off. I've never felt the need to take this piece off right here. Just clean it. Push a little grease back down in there. Done, put it back together. So, first thing I'm going to do is put some grease in. You don't really need a whole lot. I just put enough in there to get it going. Now, before you assemble these other parts, this assembly right here would have come out, and it needs to go in first. So, push it all the way in. until it's seated. Then put a little bit of grease on this one. Have that pointing up. Stick it in. Then grab this piece right here. Put some grease on the inside. Whoa, too much. That's plenty. Now I'm going to put this over that knob. Now we're ready to insert our bearing assembly back in. And then this part right here goes in, it goes into the hole, and you have to kind of work it around a little bit to get it to engage the bearing assembly and this big wheel back here. Once those are together, I like to hold everything, and now we'll put this top back on. You have to kind of rotate this around to get the screw holes to line up. Once you get one in, it's a lot easier. But don't tighten it all the way down, because you still have to get the others in. Okay, got a problem here, and that I did not watch all my parts. So I got to take this back out. I forgot about this washer right here that goes on top of this assembly right there. Now I can put this back in. That's why it's important to keep everything together. Now do a test. Yep, looks like everything's engaging, so I'm good to go. Now, next piece to go back on is this piece right here. The nut. So we tighten that down. So now we grab this piece, put it down. It's got to use this screw hole right here. Okay, now the shaft can go in, and it's got to go all the way back into here. You have to line this up on the shaft, and now I can go put this other little screw back in. This is why you got to keep all these parts separate. Okay, let's see how we're doing here. That feels pretty smooth. I want to check the motion to make sure everything has some lubrication on it. It's my understanding you don't put any oil on the inside, just grease. Oil is for, you know, these parts out here, these external parts. So I'll stick this back in. Put the cover on, and now this is why you have to pay attention to all these screws here. I know this is a small one. I made mental note of that. And now I'm going to get these guys back on. Okay, there's a little indent right there, and that's where this piece goes. You slide that into the little hole, and then it snaps down. And now this small screw, the smallest one, goes onto the top. Then, last step, let's give this a little bit of a clean, and now I can screw it back on. Screw the cap on the other side. I want to hit this, my rag, and get it cleaned off. I won't need the gloves to do the drag and should not use those because I don't want to get grease up there on the drag. Now some guys take apart all this stuff. I never do that. I just don't see the need to do that. What I will do is put some oil in there, but I'll do it right here through the moving parts. I just worry about being able to get this back together again. So I'll just work it back and forth. Get the oil in there, get it from the other side. And don't forget about the roller bearing. Before I get the oil in there, I like to get the excess off because I don't want the oil to get on my line. So I got oil down into there, so we should be good. This is easy. Take the top off, hit these 3 screws. Okay, now I'm ready to disassemble this. Take off the top, turn this upside down, and I've got my sandwiches here. Now it's just a matter of laying them out in the order in which they came out and cleaning them up. So here's where I like to use a microfiber cloth. There's really not much you have to do to the disc drags. Clean out inside there, looking good. So as you clean each piece, go ahead and put it back in. Basically I'm just trying to get any sand off of here that may have come. Note the oblong shape here that you're going to have to negotiate as you put this back together. Okay, that's clean. Again, you got to mess with these little tiny screws. I'm ready to put this back on. You got to be sure you line up the square edges, then it'll pop right through. I forgot to clean this. Let me hit that real quick. Get any dirt out of there. Yep, a little bit of dirt in there. Okay. Now this just goes right back on top. You hear the happy sound of cranking, and this reel is ready to go. So I hope you found that helpful. One final thing is I love this little hot sauce container with the needle applicator, and so what I do is I just refill it.